Welcome to Grumpy Old Men, and it's the last show for 2023.
I didn't think we'd make it.
We're right next to the road.
Yes.
And so there will be occasional noise. And in fact, we're at the Andaman Seafood Restaurant. What are you laughing at?
There was no noise until we turned on the microphone.
What?
There was no noise at all. Yeah, we're at Andaman, which is historic. Andaman features largely in I think, both our lives.
Yes, we should also, just before we start, apologise for this. This is peanut sauce.
Sauté for lunch.
Could I have dropped it anywhere more obvious? I could have dropped it on the black bit and I would have noticed it.
No.
But I tried to clean it, and of course by trying to clean it I just spread it. So there you go. You can mock me and laugh at me, and I might just have a quick lick during the program because it does taste very nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good meal.
Andaman Seafood is historic because...
it is...
you want some lemon and you...
Yeah, because they bring a lot of lemons. No, this was, at least in my life, it is historic because this is where I sat when I decided I would come live on Turtle Beach. A friend named Baz Daniel brought me here. We had a bike ride through the park, and even though I could not even make it to the gate of the park and back, I was a big smoker in those days. But this is where I was sitting when I decided I wanted to live, in Turtle Beach.
And when I first came up to Turtle Beach, because you said, I'm not coming to Phuket to do the show.
No.
So I had to come up to Turtle Beach, and this is the first place this is the very cubicle.
Yeah.
We were sitting when...
it's the best cubicle. I don't know if you're going to do cutaways. There's about, a dozen?
I'll do one right now. So I'm going to turn the camera on, and I'm going to point it so you can see what we're seeing.
Yeah. It's this one's right in front. There's probably a dozen little sala in here. And this one, I think, is everybody's favorite. We were very lucky that it was open for us today.
And we're right opposite the icon, the monument of Turtle Beach.
Our giant concrete turtle. One of many giant concrete turtles on Turtle Beach. This is the most prominent one. If there were still such a thing as postcards, this turtle is what would be on the postcards for Turtle Beach.
And an impoverished family over here that can't afford shirts.
Yes.
Oh, what a shame.
It's sad. It's sad. Refugees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Give me this. That bugs me. After enough time in Thailand, it bugs you. But I'm glad they're having fun and spending money. There's a ton of Falang on Turtle Beach right now.
There's a ton of all sorts of people. I think it gets a little bit busier over New Year. Although we seem to have the first 3 or 4 hours of the beach road to ourselves, and then they sort of start turning up around about 11 or 12 each day. But those first 3 or 4 hours are just golden here every single day of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we do have things to discuss. I thought we might start, we'll get it out of the way, was the story of 2023, the biggest story. And I'd be interested to know what do you think the main story was for Thailand this year. It's really going to bug me. So
we can stop. You can go home and change. We're just 100 meters from your front door.
They all got peanut stains on them.
Yeah.
So the main story for me over the last year, I can't really go past it because it just sort of dragged on and on and on. Was the election?
Yeah.
In fact, it was May the 14th, I think, the election.
Yeah.
And the Thais went to the polls, and they chucked out the Prayut government, and they replaced it with it was always going to be a more progressive government.
Yeah.
And they all voted for one thing, and they sort of got something slightly different.
It was replaced, not necessarily by the voters, but the government was replaced, and the intention, I think, of the people was noted by the winners. It may not have been listened to, but it was noted. Their voice was noted. Anyway.
Well, we should say that a lot of people did complain that Pita Limjoruna didn't become the Prime Minister, even though the party he was leading got the highest number of votes. But the Constitution, it all comes back to the Constitution, actually specified that, as in a lot of countries, just winning the highest number of votes doesn't necessarily mean.
How about that?
It happens in America as well.
Oh, whatever you thought you knew about democracy, it's wrong.
Yeah.
No, it's not one voter, one vote. No,
So the fact that the Pertai party was able to pull together a coalition without the Move Forward party was absolutely legal, even though it didn't look good on paper. But it was legal, and I think we've ended up with quite an interesting Prime Minister. I noticed during the week they announced his what he's worth. He's got a shitload of money.
Well, that makes sense.
He is easily the wealthiest Prime Minister that...
really?
By
wealthier
far.
than Thaksin?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
When Thaksin became Prime Minister, this guy, he's got like billions. And declared billions.
Right, so he's got way more.
He was the CEO of the big property group.
I'm sorry.
Starts with an S.
This is not a subject that I'm familiar with. I'm sorry.
But
property is not something I...
And his wife, she's got a bit of freight as well. So between the two of them, I think they've got 7 cars. He owns a DB2, Aston Martin, driven by James Bond, and it was the one that was used in the last Bond film. He actually owns that car. So he's a bit of a car collector as well.
Well, obviously, he should be Prime Minister then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no
I'd
matter what the vote was like, whatever the vote, he's got the best
You got
car.
the James Bond car?
Yeah.
You're it. Oh, the other guy, he just drives a local Toyota. No, not good enough. So Peter would have done a lot better if he'd driven around in an Aston Martin.
Sure, yeah.
So that was the biggest story, because it was not only the vote, but it was just all the pork barrelling and then, of course, this whole issue of the Senate voting, and again, we may not like the idea that the senators got to vote on the Prime Minister, but it was all written down in the Constitution, and so, it's all sort of legal.
Constitution number 839, yeah.
Yes, and they're just trying to work up the confidence to go for another one. It's going to cost them, I think, 16 billion baht to do a constitution. It's going to have 3 referenda to... first, I think the first question is, do you want another referendum for a constitution? Then they'll get into the specifics after that. But anyway.
Question number 2. Do you like my car? It's a great car, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, you know what's weird to me is, or not weird, but I'm very grateful for it. If you imagine this kind of pandemonium, there's this kind of pandemonium going on in my government right now, and so the government they're not doing anything. Congress isn't passing any laws. They're constantly coming up against a budget crisis because they're locked up. They can't get anything done because it's a circus. Everybody is making points and shouting slogans and things like that. Here, all of that's going on, and yet out here in the streets, bridges are getting built, roads are being repaired. We're sitting having a lovely meal. There's no rioting, there's no shooting, it's all very Thai. It's all very sabai. I
sort of call it organised chaos.
Yeah.
Because it always seems to be chaotic from the outside, but things get done here.
Yeah.
Some friends rode up their motorbikes from Phuket up to Turtle Beach the other day to come and say hello to me. And they said the roads north of Phuket are just fabulous.
Really good
and
roads.
And they are.
Yeah, sure they are. Yeah. I think, I think that standard of road is probably across the board in Thailand. It's just the roads on Phuket are so crappy. That's what we're comparing it to, the roads on Phuket.
When you mean crappy, you don't just mean...
Well,
I was going to say fucking busy, but I can't. Very busy.
Very busy, very narrow, lots of potholes, traffic lights not working, no sidewalks.
That's yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're third world roads in the second wealthiest province in the kingdom. And it's a bizarre weirdness. Our roads out here are gorgeous. We got a 6-lane highway going to the beach. There's nothing at the end of it. There's nothing at either end of this 6-lane road. And
well, you know what's going at the other end.
Well, the airport someday, we think.
We'll go
at one end. Farang everywhere. Farang everywhere on great big loud motorcycles.
So he's only doing 120 on his motorcycle without a helmet, down a very busy little beach road.
Yeah.
Thank you very
I'm
much
not
for coming.
visiting. Yeah, anybody out there, I'm not visiting you in the hospital when you wrec your rented motorcycle and you go to the hospital.
Speaking of which, you had a bit of an update on your friend that you shared a ward with when you had your facelift.
My hernia repair, yeah. The same as a facelift. I don't know if anybody in the audience remembers, but there was a guy I was certain was dying. I was absolutely certain his liver was in failure. And I put a notice on his Facebook page. His Facebook page had not had any activity for a year. And I put a notice there that the guy was sick and he needed help. And I don't know who answered it, but he is out of the hospital. He is apparently healing. He's not dead. And he is posting pictures of big motorcycles on Facebook. So I guess he's doing better, and I'm glad to see it. So there's an update on that guy.
So some good news.
Yeah.
We do have a few questions that came in during the week. Remember last week I mentioned that during the Saturday show, the live show, a old schoolmate came up on the feed.
Yeah.
Oh, we've had a few emails back on his
right.
forwards.
Yeah.
And he's going to bring he's got a Thai wife. So there you go.
Small world. And you had not seen this guy since high school.
No. Haven't seen him since school. No.
Well, everybody's got a Thai wife these days.
So from David, hi Tim, question for you and Steve in your grumpy show. At least he's got that right. So he says, has Steve got another book in him?
No.
So before you answer, let me finish the question. And Tim, you must have a book lurking in you.
Maybe. Yeah.
So, but you don't have. You're very definite about not another book.
Oh God, no! Writing books is a lot of hard work, and I'm retired. Doing this, it's also a matter of. This is a wonderful creative outlet.
Is it?
I'm on Fridays. I have my own show, and on Sundays I have this. And I feel like anything I need to say, because all I've ever written about, all of my books are about Steve Ross's experiences in Thailand. And I feel like I've got a platform now. I've got a megaphone. I've got a
Don't
microphone.
touch the microphone.
I've got a soapbox where I can say what I need to say and share my stories without doing all the hard work of writing a book and getting a book published.
It is a lot easier, isn't it?
Oh, God, yes. Oh, God, yes. Writing, if you're doing it well, is very, very hard work. And I don't have that much hard work left in me. I don't want to do anything that's that much work now.
And Tim, you must have a book lurking in you.
I
Yes,
think so.
but I'm just too lazy because I know how much hard work. I seem to know a lot of writers, and they all complain about what a horrible process it is.
Yeah.
So, and these days, I mean, who's going to read it?
Yeah, that's the other part of it.
They'd wait until
Yeah.
I did the audio book on YouTube, then they'd listen to it.
I used to sell a book every 3 or 4 days. My first book was published by a legit publisher in Bangkok in 2006. And he published 2 books in the 2006 to 2010 period and sold 3,000 copies of each book. And then he quit and he became a vanity press. And it's a lot easier to let wannabe writers pay you to publish their book than actually publishing a book. And so, but sold 6,000 copies of those books, and then I published them myself on Amazon. I was selling one every 3 or 4 days. Since starting this, I'm selling a book a day. 1 book a day.
Let's mention
So 3 or 4 times as many because of this marketing, this outlet.
and I get my usual 90% commission.
Nope.
So Amazon, we go to Amazon, and then you type in Steve Ross with an E.
Yeah.
And there's 6 books.
5.
5 books.
Used to be 7. 2 were not selling at all, so I took them down. But 5 remain up, yeah.
Okay, so you can purchase one of Steve's 5 books.
And my point is that I was going along with this same little dribs and drabs of sales, and when I started this, whoosh. So, this obviously has the bigger audience, the bigger appeal. So yeah, I'm going to continue to focus on this and correcting the spelling in other people's descriptions and headlines.
And Steve's also got his own YouTube channel, which is simply called Steve Ross with an E.
Yeah.
And no more plays and sets and props. It's a shame.
No more Boontongs videos.
You've got to finish that last one, though.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
know.
great set.
I've broken down the set. It's
Oh,
in
no.
storage. You've been in my house 10 times since I broke down the set. You never even noticed the set
hang
is no
on.
longer taking up half my living room.
Well,
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
it's
Nobody cares about
hard
my
to notice
sets.
something that isn't there. I'd notice if it was there.
Well, it was there for 3 months, and now it's gone. Well, at any rate, thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you enjoy the little sets.
Oh, they were fabulous.
But yeah, again, that's a lot of hard work, and it never got a third the audience that Steve simply sitting there speaking into his camera gets.
It's like doing my morning program every day. 5 days a week, it takes me 3 hours to do a 12 to 15 minute show, and we knock this out in an hour,
Yeah.
and it runs an hour. No editing. It's so much better.
Yeah.
Uh,
So thank you.
now
thank you, audience.
The
Thank you very
elephant
much.
in the room. You've had a slight removal this week.
I have, but remind me of elephants when I'm through with this.
Elephants.
Yeah. I've had a loose tooth for years and years and years and years. It was very painful. The pain would come and go, and I am afraid of dentists, and I was putting it off. I had to skip. A very good friend invited me to Christmas dinner. I had to skip dinner because it was painful. I couldn't eat.
I was feeling like shit anyway.
Yeah, and so thank you for letting me off the hook with that. I don't have any molars, so I have to chew in the front of my mouth, and this tooth was not letting me chew. So after missing Christmas dinner, a free Christmas dinner, Boxing Day, I went to the dentist, and 3 minutes, boop, the thing has been wanting to fall out of my head for years. And so now I have this hole, and if you want to comment, do you think Steve needs to get an implant at 66 years of age? Yeah, go ahead. I
It's just
may.
when you whistle when you talk, that's the only problem.
Can you hear it? Is there a whistle? I know I can hear a little lisp. I can hear a little bit of soft sibilance when I speak. But I don't know. Kind of makes me look like an MMA fighter, doesn't it?
Well, you could build a really good story around it. Well,
Oh, yeah.
I had him on the ground, and he had one hit left in
You
him.
should have seen the other guy.
Yeah.
Elephants.
Elephants.
We have an elephant park in Turtle Beach. 10 minutes from your front door, you can feed bananas to elephants. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It is depressing as hell
Oh,
because
God.
it's, these days,
I find
guess,
them all depressing.
Well, see, that's the thing. These days, there's been enough memes on YouTube or on Facebook saying, don't patronize these places. The elephants are being tortured, yada, yada, yada. And I think people aren't going. And then there was 3 years of COVID. So this place has 6 animals, all females, all adults, and it's kind of run down. It hasn't had guests in any numbers in a long time. They still have baskets of bananas out that you can buy and feed the elephants, and the elephants are still wearing the baskets on their back, the seats on their backs.
Right.
Like they're standing there
So
waiting.
you can go for a ride.
So you can. I imagine it's probably 1,000 baht or 1,200 baht. I just it's 100 baht for a basket of bananas. I just bought 2 baskets of bananas and fed the animals, and I think I will go back and do that because standing with them, touching them, smelling them, hearing them, looking them in the eye is a great experience, I think.
Smelling them.
The
The
else?
rest okay.
Nothing else smells like an elephant. You're never going to get that smell anywhere else.
And they eat an enormous amount of food every day.
They
and
do.
Somebody's got to be feeding them.
They're very expensive to keep. So I think I will continue to go back, because it's 10 minutes away.
Where is it?
Soi Tesaban Sam, the third, the Market Road downtown?
Yes.
If you keep going out of town, if you could, on the days there's no market, you can drive up that soy.
Oh.
That soy goes out, crosses the bypass, and just keeps going north about a couple clicks, and it ends at this park. There's a big sun-faded sign.
And it's called?
It's called Kapkua Kaunoi, the family of the small mountain. And it's a small place, 6 animals, and some Burmese, I guess, mahouts, and they just stand around. They feed them sugar cane, and they stand around. And as far as I've only been there once, but that's what they were doing. And there wasn't a lot of evidence of tour buses or anything coming in there. I think for a long time.
I didn't even know it was there.
No, I didn't either. I knew there's one up in Khao Lak. And there's a couple, I think, on Phuket, or 3 on Phuket. But we've got little elephants, not a sanctuary, but a little elephant joint. And I'm very pleased to find it because it's been 30 years since I stood next to an elephant, fed an elephant a banana.
Speaking of the road less travelled, I headed to Punga Town last week to find a digital printer. Not an interesting story, but I thought, well, okay, I know roughly where I've got to go. I've got to go down to that big road with the 6 lanes, the one that goes to the new airport. And but I thought, there might be a sort of a way through there.
Yeah.
So there was a way through there. What a delightful road that is.
Yes. It goes up and down. Yeah.
And it's all windy. If you got a motorbike, you would love it.
Yeah.
What a fabulous
and
road
it goes past Wat Lumpini, which is where the mummified monk is. So you can stop on the way and make merit in front of a mummified monk.
I'd rather see the elephants. But,
well, all right. Yeah.
But there's rice paddies and there's trees and there's rubber plantations and there's little hills.
And it's a 2-lane country road. There's not the traffic, not the big trucks.
Oh, no.
The big road to Punga.
It took me about 3 hours to get to Punga. Yeah. Normally take about half an hour, but wow, what a beautiful little road that was.
Yep.
So a nice little find.
I approve of that, yes.
One of the roads less travelled here around Turtle Beach.
You want to? Shall I take something?
Yeah,
Steve got it wrong.
Oh, I got a Steve
Those are
wrong too.
Those are always very popular. So I had mentioned. Actually, I think I mentioned it on my channel, but I'll apologize for it here. Mea culpa. I said Garuda Roof. I was talking about
Garuda
Roof. I was talking about Thai architecture, and I was trying to express the upswept corners of the traditional Thai roof.
Oh,
how they come and go up.
Yes.
And I had it in my head. That's a Garuda, the man, the half man, half bird that you see on currency and outside government offices and on police cars and police uniforms. And it's not. It's the bird, the Kinari. Where the Kinari is a half woman, a half bird. This is the head of a bird. Anyway, it's not the Naga, not the serpent, and it's not the Garuda. But I wanted to read something. This is from Philip Cornwell Smith's Very Thai, because you see that bird everywhere. It's on all Thai Airways aircraft. It's on every piece of government stationery, every police car, every government office, everything that has to do with the king. His Majesty the King. Thai kings are named Rama. Well, Thai kings of this dynasty, 10 so far, have been named Rama after an avatar, Vishnu. And every Hindu god has a vehicle, something he rides. And Vishnu's is the Garuda. He rides the half-man. Vishnu rides the half-man, half-eagle. So they began putting that on the king's palanquin, the thing they carry him in, anything he rides on cars, on the boats, on the river, the longboats, and then it went from there to currency, to stamps, to government buildings, to everywhere. So now that half-man, half-bird, I don't know if you can... You see that?
Got him.
That's a Garuda. Or in Thai, Krut. He certifies authenticity on letterheads, title deeds, passports, ID cards, and banknotes. He validates wedding certificates, visas, and bureaucratic forms. An embodiment of power in action. He has many jobs to do. So the fact that he's not just, like a Ginnery is an angel, she's just up there playing a ukulele. This guy has a job. He carries Vishnu around.
The ukulele?
Yes, don't ever question me. Prakrut is what he's called. And only the Naga, only the serpent, the serpent is mightier. You see the serpent, and because the serpent shielded the Buddha, the Naga shielded the Buddha when the Buddha was sitting under the tree attaining enlightenment, and so he was given special powers. So the Krut is the most powerful mythical beast, and the Naga is the second most powerful, but neither one is on a roof, so Steve got it wrong.
The Garuda is also a thing in, obviously, Indonesia, because they named an airline after it.
Yeah, it's Hindu. It's originally Hindu. It's Vishnu's mount. And the airline, I suppose, is carrying royalty.
And while we're on, not so much Steve got it wrong, but just some more comments about it. Tim, in last week's Grumpy Old Men, it was discussed that Thais don't say bless you after sneezing. I believe we Westerners started saying bless you during the great influenza outbreak, where a sneeze generally indicated you had the dreaded disease, so death is only around the corner. This leads on to the true meaning behind nursery rhymes and the hidden meaning educating children of certain dangers. This, I think, would make a good follow-on discussion on Grumpy Old Men. Thank God we've got a producer at last. The Western nursery rhymes and whether Thailand had any like nursery rhymes or sayings. The tradition of Thai nursery rhymes or Thai stories would be very, very, very different from... We got a lot of our sort of nursery rhymes from Germany and Grimm's and the fairy tales. And
yeah, and if he's talking about the flu epidemic of 1918... no, ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. That was roseola. It was a plague that went through Europe in the 1600s or the 1500s.
Bubonic plague?
Yeah, it's all, if things are plague-inspired, certainly long before the Spanish flu influenza.
That's twice in one program.
Twice, yeah. In 1918, which, by the way, took the life of Louis Leonowens, Anna Leonowens, Anna and the King of Siam, her son, Louis, who's a little boy.
He died during the
Yes, he and his wife. They went to England to visit after the war in 1918. It was safe to travel to Europe, and they left Thailand and they went to England to visit relatives they hadn't seen since childhood. And within a week, they were both dead.
A week?
Yeah, boom. As soon as they got off the boat, boom.
Wow.
Probably got it on the boat, I would imagine.
Sure.
But yeah,
sure.
Louis Leonowens, who had a terrific life. His life should be a movie. His life was so much better than his mom's, so much more exciting.
Well, his mum's movie's pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's all lies. She didn't do any of that. She never met the king, let alone danced with the king. Or as she never said she danced with him.
She did dance with him. I saw it in the movie.
That was Deborah Carr dancing with Yul Brynner and not Anna Leonowens. But at any rate, I digress. Louis Leonowens, there's a book called Louis and the King of Siam, because he was, of course, schoolmates with Rama V, Chulalongkorn. And Chulalongkorn was the king who abolished slavery and made this country a modern thing and started railroads and all this stuff. And his buddy, he brought his school buddy back, Louis Leonowens, and sort of gave him control over the northern half of Thailand. And Louis Leonowens, for a long time, was the king of Lana Thai, king of Chiang Mai. And yeah, at any rate, there is all of that.
Steve?
Yes?
There's your next book.
Oh, it's been written a dozen times. Like I said, Louis and the King of Siam is the name of that book.
I didn't know the story. So...
Written by 2 Iowa graduates, University of Iowa graduates. But yeah, Louis' story.
All right,
is
well, then we
terrific.
need to do the music
So
for
at
it.
any rate, yeah, I don't think the Spanish flu inspired any children's lullabies. And they're not lullabies. Ring Around the Rosie is a game song. It's not a lullaby. A Goodnight Moon is to teach children how to accept death. Anybody got a child? You ever read them Goodnight Moon? That's about accepting the death of a grandparent. The old lady whispering hush who disappears halfway through the book.
I got Dr. Seuss, so I missed
Yeah,
out on that
Dr.
one.
Seuss. That's political. That's not religious. But yeah, I can sing you a Thai lullaby.
Can you with out one tooth?
เด็กเอ้ยเด็กดีต้องมีนาที10อย่างด้วยกันนับถือศาสนา I'm drawing stairs. Excuse me.
Oddly surprised.
Yeah, that was horrible, wasn't it? I apologize for that.
So
ladies
it's a
and
Thai fairy tale, Thai nursery rhyme or something.
Well, what it is, Dek ơi, Dek di, hey kid. Dek ơi, hey kid. Dek di, a good child, has 10 responsibilities. Mi nap to sip yang. The first is nap to sasana, to respect religion. So children in this country are being taught responsibility from the cradle, and the first responsibility is religion. Be faithful. So it tells you something about this country, doesn't it?
And the other two?
The other 9, I don't remember. Okay. I tended to tune out my ex-wife at a certain point, and so when she was singing that to our children, I would drift off, apparently.
So this is another comment that came through, and so this is a bit more general, not specifically about you or your tooth or Anything else? My thought of the day, this is from William Hartz. It says, why is that the government puts a lot of energy to make it easy for tourists to come to Thailand, travel visa extensions for example, yet there seems to be very little incentive for the government to make retiring in Thailand more easy for foreigners? We expats do spend a lot of money here, and most of us over 50 years old, folks are law-abiding visitors since we're not going crazy at the bars. Ha ha ha. A little level of entitlement in the comment.
Yeah, and the assumption that expats spend any significant amount of money here is bullshit. Whatever money we spend is very local. The people in Bangkok, if you're out in Pitsanulok or you're here on Turtle Beach, all right, we're going to spend about 300-400 baht for this meal. None of that's ever going to get to Bangkok. The people making the rules in Bangkok don't give a rat's ass about us. Compared to agriculture and compared to fossil fuels, tourism, the entirety of tourism is a very small piece of the puzzle. And we expats are an even smaller subset of that.
Yeah, we're driving on the roads and using the resources too.
Well, yeah, and it's all very local. The gasoline you will buy to put in your motorcycle today, you're spending that money locally. It's not anything I think that the government takes notice of.
Certainly the tourists spend more per day here in Thailand than the expats. So I'm not sure if the government's going out of its way to actively try and stop expats from coming here. I mean, retiring here in Thailand has been, I think, a little bit easier in the past.
Yeah.
Now it's not that they've made it more complicated, but they are dotting the I's and crossing the T's a bit more than they used to in the past. That's about as much as you could say.
I think
there's this new tax ruling coming in from next week, and a lot of people seem to be very scared about it, but there's not much they can be scared about because we don't know the details yet.
A lot of pearls being clutched at the moment.
Oh,
yes.
I
think there's part of it is retirees sit around on the farm and look at the rambutan trees, and they have way too much time to think about shit, be worried about shit, and be afraid of shit. And yeah, it's not. I'm not. It's not on my radar at all. That tax thing.
Yeah, well, me either. But I can't worry about something I don't know about.
Yeah.
And when they actually have got some examples under the belt, when the Revenue Department has actually specified exactly what it means, then I may or may not have something to worry about. I probably don't think I will.
It's a very nebulous threat at the moment.
So it's not as if, and as far as tourists are concerned, there has been a few exemptions, like a few. There's been some extra visa waivers for Taiwanese, for Chinese, for Indians, Kazakhs, out of nowhere in particular, and there's been this 90-day visa waiver for Russians. But, I mean, these are just little sort of tourist promotions that come and go from time to time. I don't think generally it's any easier or harder to come here as a tourist or as a retired person.
And perhaps,
I
think Thai people, at least Chamnan, who is the Thai person that I have the most contact with, he's like my hired man. And
Man Friday.
My Man Friday. My gardener, my plumber, my bricklayer, my mechanic, and my chauffeur.
He's the best partner you've ever had.
Yeah, and he goes home at dinner time. That's the best part of it. And but at any rate, we had a conversation about, Kun Steve, when you are old and sick, will your children take care of you? And I said, well, I hope not to need that. I think I'm going to die pretty suddenly. My medical history taken into account, I will die very suddenly. And he said, well, but, because a lot of Farang come here and they retire and they end up dying in our hospitals. And it's very expensive for Thai people, all of these Farang who have no children to take care of them. And they die in our hospitals, and we have to take care of them. So if there is a more dotting of I's and crossing of T's, it might be in the interest of not seeing as many of these Kickstarters or GoFundMes. Nigel's in the hospital, and he doesn't have any money, and they're going to kick him out to die on the street. Maybe that is feeding into what you're perceiving as an antagonism toward retirement here.
And
that's a guess. That's just a guess.
And retirement visa that you apply for outside the country. I think that's the OA visa. I might have this mixed up. It's a lot to remember when you're trying to sort of be on top of all this. But the one that you apply for outside the country, there is compulsory health insurance. And some people don't like that. And they say, look, I'm over 70, I can't get health insurance anymore, which isn't correct. But it is going to cost you a lot more. And perhaps in the future, it may be something that they make mandatory, that you are going to have some sort of insurance for those cases where you don't end up in a hospital costing
where
the
you
tires
fall
money.
off your motorcycle and wither away.
Sure.
And I will note that 30 years ago, I was on Phuket doing my own visas. There wasn't such a thing that I had ever heard of called a visa agent. I had never heard of that. Now there's a whole industry.
Oh, yeah.
There are thousands and thousands of people making buku money by helping you get a visa. And I think and all of them are doing this in concert with a karachakan in the office, some guy in a khaki uniform who's making a little bit of scratch out of every visa he rubber stamps. And it may be that industry now wants to protect its interests and wants to keep it difficult for you to do your own visa. I certainly could not do my own visa now. I did my own visa for 7 years. Can't do it now. So maybe that's feeding into this.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what you think about all this as well. Do you think that retirement... that Thailand is making it more difficult for retirees? I don't see that. I think as we get older, we just get a little bit more panicky about things, and we think that Thailand is sort of turning against us and making it more difficult. But really, I'm trying to think of other places in the world where you could have this.
Yeah.
I feel very settled and find
I feel
it very
lucky
easy.
as hell. I feel blessed. I feel lucky as hell that I made it here.
Yeah.
And I stay here every day. And I'm glad that I'm not a young man vlogging, because apparently, from what I've observed, if you're a young man vlogging about Thailand, you have to be in a gym. They've always got things like, this is my gym, this is what I pay for my membership, and it's got all the machines I need. You need machines.
I'm watching different vlogs, obviously.
Oh, no, the old men talk about retirement visas and bars and rai of land in Isan, and the young men talk about condos and health clubs and lifting weights and Bitcoin and making a living, which I guess is natural. Guys our age don't talk a lot about making a living. You do.
Well, because
you're still at work.
I'm still working.
Yeah.
I'm still a working man. I've sort of run out of topics.
I've got one thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a topic, but what's Steve reading this week? SP Somtao, Jasmine Nights. SP Somtao was, back in the 70s when I was introduced to him, a very well-known science fiction writer in the United States. He in the 70s and 80s was appearing in all the big science fiction periodicals. And I knew him from that context. I was a big science fiction fan when I was a young man. And there exists somewhere a photograph of me in a Star Trek Starfleet uniform. But at any rate, I knew Somtao from that. And then I came here in the 90s, and turns out he is a Thai, I suppose we could say a nobleman, from a very distinguished family and very well educated abroad and a writer of books about Thailand. And this was serialized in the Bangkok Post back in the 90s, and I read it then and enjoyed it very much. And I just found it in a used bookstore recently, and I was reintroduced to it. And it's just a very good book. I would recommend it. It's very lyrical, and it's reminiscent. Now, for the 2 or 3 people in this audience who might remember a book by Kukrit Pramod called Si Pandin, 4 Rains. Kukrit is a former prime minister of this country who was raised in the harem in the late 1800s. He was a child of a royal wife, and he grew up in the women's compound at the Grand Palace. And for the first 13 years of his life, he never saw a man. And then he was sent to Oxford or Eton or somewhere, and all of a sudden he's in a British boarding school. Oh, that's my phone. We're going to ignore that. At any rate,
there's no idea
I
on
don't know.
the number.
At
the
any
police
rate,
again.
so he wrote a book. Among his many books, Kukrit wrote a book called Si Pendin, and he was, some people say, the first democratically elected prime minister in 1974, and he was only prime minister for a year. But he's very well respected in this country and very revered both as an artist, a politician. He launched the Bangkok Bank. He was the first president of the Bangkok Bank. And his brother, Seni Pramod, was the guy who conveniently forgot to deliver Thailand's declaration of war to the United States.
Whoops.
In World War II, which meant at the end of World War II, there were no reparations to be paid. They had never technically been at war with the Allies. And the Japanese saw them draft this declaration of war in Bangkok, saw the Prime Minister, Pibun Songkhram, sign the declaration of war, put it in a courier envelope and send it off to Washington. So the Japanese were satisfied. And Seni Pramod was the ambassador to the United States, and he received this declaration, and he conveniently forgot it in the lower left-hand drawer of his desk and never delivered it to the White House. So very Thai, very Thai. So his brother Kukrit wrote a book called Si Pendin about growing up in the harem. And that's what this is, kind of that way. It's a young boy growing up in a house full of wealthy women, and all the men are absent. They're living with their minor wives somewhere else. And it's growing up with a Western education in a traditional wealthy Thai home. And I like it very much. I had forgotten how much I liked this book. It's got a very unfortunate black African-American character in it who speaks in a very step-and-fetch-it Amos and Andy voice, which has not aged well at all, but it's a book published in Thailand, and there's no...
What year was it published?
Oh, this, like I said, I read it in 93, serialized in the Bangkok Post. So it would have been published in 94 as a book, as a novel, and I think this is a much later... 94. This is the original, 94. Yeah,
Okay,
S.P. Somtao. He's also the conductor of the Siam Sinfonietta, a symphony orchestra
still
in
around?
Bangkok. Oh, God, yes. He is the conductor of the Siam Sinfonietta. He is conducting Mahler, I think, this week. Mahler or Beethoven, somebody. They do very regular symphony. It's like 100 musicians and SP in front of them, waving his arms, and I will...
It's called conducting.
I will assume in time to the music. Yeah, it's called conducting.
So as we wrap up this week, I thought we'll ponder 2024, something that you probably weren't thinking much about even a year ago. But here you are, now at the end of 2023, fit well.
Yeah, alive.
Minus one tooth, but still alive. And
A sewn-up hernia.
What are you looking forward to in 2024?
Waking up. Every morning, waking up. And I wake up 3 times a night to pee. But in the morning, when you wake up and you start your day, that's when you go, holy Christ, look where I am. Look what I'm doing. Yeah. Jeez, look at this. This is all I want. I don't want to leave this beach in 2024. I don't want to go anywhere. I'll go to Pangao once every 90 days to Taoiza. But
To what?
Taoiza, to extend or continue your visa.
Oh, okay.
That's what that 90-day report is called,
Right.
Taoiza.
Well, it reminds me.
And, in January it comes up for me. But at any rate, I'll leave to go do that. I'll go. There are things I cannot find. I spent this week trying to find cinnamon and a toaster in Turtle Beach, and I could not find either one of those two things. So I got to drive to Pangao over that beautiful mountain road to go to the Big C and get toaster and cinnamon, taco seasoning,
You can
taco
get a
sauce.
toaster at Tesco. Got little green ones with a sticker on them. I saw them the other day.
Tesco? What, in Kokloi?
No, in Thai Muang.
Our Lotus?
Yes.
No, I looked.
In the entrance, there's a whole lot of kitchenware.
Really?
There. Yeah, the toaster. They had a green one.
Steve got it wrong.
Or Lazada. That's where I buy. I've had so much stuff from Lazada.
Yeah,
this week.
I spend local. I want to spend every baht of my meager allowance here on this beach, so my friends will love me, so my neighbors will love me.
I was coming back from Phuket yesterday. Oh, what traffic was horrendous. Getting to the top of the island and going across that 300 metres of bridge, it was like the clouds parted.
Liberation.
The stars came out. It was night. And I was just so happy to get off Phuket
Yes.
and get. I knew
Isn't
I
that
was
weird?
30 minutes away from Turtle Beach.
I spent 8 years of my life promoting that place.
Well, I'd love.
And
loved
look
it
what I
too.
have wrought. Look at it. Look at it now.
It's all your fault.
Well, there is late at night, at that dark 3 a.m. of the soul, there is some consideration. 250 magazine articles about how great Phuket is. You should come visit Phuket from 1989 to 1997. I pimped that place. And look what's happened.
Yes, I'm just disinclined to promote it as the Phuket that I sort of remembered when I arrived. And I certainly, even when I arrived back in 2011, had missed the probably the heyday of the island. But I still enjoyed it for those 11 or 12 years I was living there. But now after yesterday, I don't know where I'd say, if you're going to live in Phuket, where would you live? I don't know. Way up the north of the island, probably. At least you get a little bit of space and fresh air up there.
But you can just come across that bridge, and your rent will be half of what it is. Your food costs half of what it is, and you'll be able to drive around and not sit all day in your car.
Yeah.
And I apologize to my friends. I've got friends on Phuket, been there 40 years. Charlie Whiskey, John Williams, Mark Rome, people who've been there for 40 years who still love the place, and they get upset when I badmouth Phuket. And I'm sorry, guys, but I gotta tell the truth.
Well, you can start your own YouTube channel as well and
Yeah.
wax lyrical about the wonders of Phuket.
Yeah.
And look, there's still plenty of great things to do there, but as far as a place to live and relax, I just don't see it anymore.
But then again, these guys that were sitting here in a restaurant without their shirts on, they can go back to Phuket. We don't need them here. Yeah, I know, and you comment, that's fine.
So, from Steve and I, me and Steve,
Depends on the rest of the sentence.
on our behalf, I would like to wish you all a Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, you
And
guys.
hopefully you behave yourself. As I mentioned, Steve, when we had lunch, I'll be in bed by 9.
Yeah,
Do they
me
have
too.
fireworks around here?
I haven't a clue.
I'm pretty
I
sure
was in bed by 9 last year. I have no idea what they do.
somebody
I'm sure,
be throwing crackers
yeah,
somewhere.
I'm sure they will. They sell fireworks year-round here in the religious supply stores, as one does.
Sure.
And I'm sure there'll be people on the beach with fireworks. Whether or not the civic entity, the Ampur, does a big, choreographed thing here, I don't know.
So we build this big artificial sort of barrier, this wall called New Year every year. But I will wake up the day after, and it'll just be another day. And I've got some very busy projects for the first couple of months of next year. And then I'm looking forward to, and thanks for asking, to settle into a sort of a quieter 2024 and consolidate what I've sort of started this year. So hopefully it's going to sort of just settle down to a dull roar.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I should have asked you. I suck at this, man.
So I'm going to go back and soak my shirt.
Yeah.
And we're sort of both wearing black and white stripes to a degree.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even noticed.
There you go.
I will leave you with one thought. You talked about this artificial wall. We are arbitrarily selecting this date as the beginning of a new year. There has only been one sunset and one sunrise in the history of the world. The sunset and sunrise that we perceive as a distinct event in this spot is actually something that is continuously going around the world. It is an event which has always been happening and always will be happening 24/7.
It's the Earth rotating, giving the illusion of the sun going
All right.
around and around.
Yes, all right. So that event of us passing into and then out of that umbra, that moment, we perceive that as a distinct event, when in fact it is something that is eternal. It has been going on forever. Think about that.
Brain exploded. Thanks, Steve. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. Thank you for your patience, Tim. I very much appreciate it.
By the way, if you come to Andaman Seafood Restaurant, the food is spectacular. The service is...
And we will never be coming back here, apparently. Yeah. They're going to spit in our food after this.
We'll see you next time.
We're going
Bye-bye.
to sneak out of here. Goodbye. Thank you. Love you. Wow. Don't hold back, dude.